Good morning, third grade. I'm meeting you from the barn. This is my craziest sheep Valentine, so I'm not even going to try to pick up those lambs. And they were born yesterday afternoon. Valentine is our last ewe to have babies, so that's really exciting. It's kind of breezy and cold in here because the doors are off because we're getting new doors from the construction. So if it's messing up the sound, I'm really sorry. I don't know what I'm going to name them. Hi. But maybe after holidays. That's the little boy. And the one that's nursing is a little girl. And maybe we'll name them, I don't know, Halloween and Thanksgiving. I don't know. We'll think of some names. They're both really, really cute. But I'm not going to try and pick them up. I'm just going to try and get some reading done. Our computer is not very charged up. I'm just out here early trying to get this done before the construction crew arrives. Oh, they went to divination. I thought we weren't starting crystal balls until next term, Ron muttered, casting a wary eye towards Professor Trelawney, in case she was lurking nearby. Don't complain. This means we've nearly finished palmistry, Harry muttered back. He was getting sick of flinching every time she looked at his hands. Good day to you, said the same familiar misty voice, and Professor Trelawney made her usual dramatic entrance out of the shadows. Parvati and Lavender quivered with excitement, their faces lit by the milky glow of their crystal ball. I have decided to introduce the crystal ball a little earlier than I had planned, said Professor Trelawney, seating herself with her back to the fire and gazing around. The fates have informed me that your examinations in June will concern the orb, and I am anxious to give you sufficient practice. Hermione snorted. Well, honestly, the fates have informed her. Who sets and makes up the exam? She does, right, little lamb? What an amazing prediction, Hermione said, not troubling to keep her voice low. It was hard to tell whether Professor Trelawney heard them. Her face was hidden in a shadow. She continued, however, as though she had not heard. Crystal gazing is a particularly refined art, she said dreamily. I do not expect any of you to see when you first peer into the orb's infinite depth. We shall start by practicing relaxing the conscious mind and the external eyes. Ron began to snigger uncontrollably and had to stuff his fist into his mouth to stifle the noise. So as to clear the inner eye and the superconscious, perhaps if we are lucky, some of you will see before the end of class. And so they began. Harry at last felt extremely foolish, staring blankly at the crystal ball, trying to keep his mind empty when thoughts such as, this is stupid, kept drifting across it. It didn't help that Ron kept breaking into silent giggles and Hermione kept tutting with disapproval. Seen anything yet? Harry asked them after a quarter of an hour's quiet crystal gazing. Yeah, there's a burn on this table, said Ron, pointing. Someone spilled their candle on it. Hi, little one. Hi. Hi, little guy. Oh, where was I? Yeah, there's a burn on this table, said Ron, pointing. Somebody spilled their candle on it. This is such a waste of time, Hermione hissed. I could be practicing something useful. I could be catching up on the cheering charms that I missed. Professor Trelawney rustled past. Would anyone like me to help them interpret the shadowy contents within their orb? She muttered over the clinking of her bangles. I don't need help, Ron whispered. It's obvious what this means. There's going to be a load of fog tonight. Both Harry and Hermione burst out laughing. No, really, said Professor Trelawney, as everyone's heads turned in their direction. Parvati and Lavender were looking scandalized. You are disturbing the clairvoyant vibrations. She approached their table and peered into their ball. Harry felt his heart sinking. He was sure he knew what was coming. "There is something here," Professor Trelawney whispered, lowering her face to the ball so that it was reflected twice as huge as her glasses. "Something moving. But what is it?" Harry was prepared to bet everything he owned, including his firebolt, that it wasn't good news, whatever it was, and sure enough. "My dear!" Professor Trelawney screamed, gazing up at Harry. "It's here! Plainer than ever before, my dear, stalking towards you, growing ever closer. The Grim!" "Oh, for goodness sake," said Hermione, "not that ridiculous Grim again." Professor Trelawney raised her enormous eyes to Hermione's face. Parvati whispered something to Lavender, and they both glared at Hermione, too. Professor Trelawney stood up, surveying Hermione with the most unmistakable anger. "I am sorry to say, from the moment you have arrived in my class, my dear, it has been apparent that you do not have the noble art of divination requires. Indeed, I don't remember ever meeting a student whose mind was so hopelessly mundane as yours." There was a moment's silence. Then, "Fine," said Hermione suddenly, getting back up and cramming Unfogging the Future back into her bag. "Fine," she repeated, swinging the bag over her shoulder and almost knocking Ron off his chair. "I give up! I'm leaving!" And to the whole class's amazement, Hermione Granger stood up over the trap door, kicked it open, and climbed down the ladder out of sight without another word. It took a few minutes for the class to settle down again. Professor Trelawney seemed to have forgotten all about the Grim. She turned abruptly from Harry and Ron's table, breathing rather heavily as she tugged her gauzy shawl more closely to her. "Whew," said Lavender suddenly, making everyone start. "Oh, Professor Trelawney, I've just remembered. You saw her leaving, didn't you? Didn't you, Professor? You said, around Easter, one of our number will leave us forever. You said it ages ago, Professor." Professor Trelawney gave her a dewy smile. "Yes, my dear, I did indeed know that Miss Granger would be leaving us. One hopes, however, that one might have mistaken the signs. The inner eye can be a burden, you know." Lavender and Parvati looked deeply impressed and moved over so that Professor Trelawney could join their table instead. "Someday Hermione's having, huh?" said Ron muttered to Harry, looking odd. "Yeah." Harry glanced into the crystal ball, but he saw nothing but swirling white mist. Had Professor Trelawney really seen the Grim again? Would he? The last thing he needed was another near-fatal accident, with the Quidditch final drawing nearer and nearer. Alright, I know that this video is kind of short today, but I'm down to 5% battery on this computer, and it is pretty chilly out in the barn. Okay, good. I hope you guys enjoyed the sun, and that you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.